The price Marie Curie was willing to pay. Marie Curie did not discover radioactivity by accident, and she did not continue her work out of ignorance. From the very beginning, she understood that what she was studying was powerful. She could feel it physically. The substances she handled burned the skin, weakened the body, and left marks that did not fade. This was not a mystery to her. It was evidence. At the turn of the 20th century, science was expanding rapidly, but it was still incomplete. Radiation was not yet fully understood. Its dangers were not quantified, but they were not invisible. Marie Curie worked for hours in poorly ventilated rooms, surrounded by glowing materials that fascinated her and exhausted her at the same time. She noticed the fatigue, she noticed the illness, she noticed the cost, and she continued. Marie Curie's habit was not recklessness, it was clarity. She knew that knowledge was not neutral. Every discovery reshaped the world in ways that could not be undone. To understand something new meant accepting responsibility for what that understanding might bring. She and Pierre Curie isolated new elements by hand, processing tons of material in conditions that today would be considered unthinkable. They worked without protection, without safeguards, without any real precedent. What they had instead was attention careful, methodical, unwavering. After Pierre's death, Marie did not step back. She did not retreat into safety or reputation. She continued to work, to teach, to measure, to refine. Her notebooks from this period remain radioactive even now. The traces of her work persist physically, long after the theories themselves became established. Marie Curie never framed her choices as sacrifice. She did not speak in the language of heroism. In her writing, there is no sense of martyrdom. There is only a quiet acceptance that understanding comes at a cost, and that refusing to pay it does not make the cost disappear. She believed deeply that science belonged to everyone. She refused to patent her discoveries, even when doing so would have brought wealth and security. Knowledge, in her view, was not property. It was a responsibility shared across generations. This belief did not protect her. Years of exposure damaged her health. Her strength declined. Her body absorbed what her mind had uncovered. By the end of her life, the consequences were undeniable. The danger she had studied so closely had become inseparable from her own existence. And yet, she never expressed regret. Marie Curie understood something that is easy to overlook. Avoiding risk does not preserve truth, it merely delays it. Someone, somewhere, eventually bears the cost. She chose to bear it herself, knowingly, deliberately, without illusion. Her story is often told as one of perseverance or brilliance, but at its core, it is a story about acceptance. She accepted that understanding the world requires more than curiosity. It requires endurance. It requires the willingness to stand near what is dangerous, not because it is safe, but because it is true. In a time when progress is often measured by speed and convenience, Marie Curie's life offers a different measure. Not how quickly something can be discovered, but who is willing to live with the consequences of discovery. She paid the price, and the world learned from it. What is often missed in accounts of Marie Curie's life is how deliberate her persistence was. She did not drift forward blindly, unaware of the consequences. She observed them accumulating, year after year, in her own body and in the bodies of those around her. The burns on her hands were not metaphors. They were physical reminders of what prolonged exposure meant. She recorded symptoms with the same discipline she recorded data, noting changes in strength, endurance, and health with a scientist's precision. At no point did she claim innocence. She understood that every hour spent in the laboratory was an hour spent closer to irreversible damage. But she also understood something else, that discovery, once glimpsed, cannot be unseen. Turning away would not undo what she already knew. It would only ensure that the knowledge remained incomplete, misunderstood, or misused by others less careful than she was. Marie Curie's relationship with danger was not dramatic. She did not court it. She did not celebrate it. She treated it as a fact, much like gravity or heat, something to be acknowledged, measured, and endured if necessary. In her correspondence, there is no trace of obsession with personal safety. There is, instead, a quiet focus on the work itself, as though the work existed independently of her body, and she was merely the instrument through which it passed. This attitude puzzled many of her contemporaries. Colleagues worried about her health. Administrators questioned her methods. Some admired her resolve. Others criticized what they saw as unnecessary risk. But Marie Curie did not accept advice that was not grounded in understanding. She did not trust warnings that came without evidence, and she did not accept comfort offered at the expense of truth. Her laboratories were austere places. There was no grandeur, no sense of spectacle. Glassware, metal instruments, crude furnaces, and stacks of notes filled rooms that were often cold and poorly equipped. She worked not in ideal conditions, but in the conditions available, improving them incrementally when she could, never waiting for perfection before proceeding. To her, waiting was its own form of risk, the risk of letting ignorance persist. During the First World War, this philosophy extended beyond research. She developed mobile radiography units to assist battlefield surgeons, personally training operators and overseeing their deployment. Once again, she placed herself near sources of radiation, not because she underestimated the danger, but because she believed that knowledge unused was knowledge wasted. If her work could reduce suffering, then withholding it would be its own form of harm. Even then, she did not speak of herself as brave. She spoke of necessity. People were injured. Tools existed to help them. Therefore, the tools must be used. The logic was simple, almost austere. There was no room for self-pity in it, and no appetite for recognition. As her fame grew, so did the distance between how others perceived her and how she perceived herself. To the public, she became a symbol of perseverance, of intellect, of sacrifice. To herself, she remained a worker, a custodian of a dangerous but valuable form of knowledge. Symbols did not interest her. Accuracy did.